Welcome to the OpenVault Broadband Industry Report Q4 2019. Thanks for the opportunity to present our key findings and the implications we see for broadband service providers from our recent analysis of broadband usage data. My name is Larry Siegel, and I'll be serving as your host for today's webinar. I'm going to introduce our agenda, talk a bit about our role in developing this groundbreaking report, and then turn it over to our CEO and founder, Mark Trudeau, who will take us on a deep dive into the key findings and their implications for broadband operators. If you have questions as we go, please submit them using the Zoom field within your interface. And that being said, let's jump right into it. So here's what we're going to go over today. As I mentioned, a quick overview of what the broadband, the OVBI report is, how it's created. We're going to go over an executive summary of findings, and then we're going to jump into it. We're going to talk about broadband data usage growth. We're going to talk about power users. We're going to talk about a case study. When we get into the power user part of it, we're going to talk about provision speed, and we're going to talk about its impact, and that will drive a case study that we're going to tell you about that we think will be of great interest. And then based on the historical data that we've had, we're in a position now where we can start making predictions with confidence, and we're going to give you a little preview of what we expect to happen in 2020. Then just a quick little overview of us and the solutions we offer, and then open it up to some Q&A. So thank you again for joining us, and let's get started. So as you know by now, we are OpenVault. We have award-winning solutions for broadband operators. We have a suite of proprietary tools that leverage the usage data that we collect to yield actionable software solutions. Those solutions drive better network management, save time and cost, increase ARPU, and deliver higher customer satisfaction and thus retention. So for our different broadband providers, we collect literally millions of elements of data from subscribers. And with our platform, we're able to take a look at it and analyze it and create insights from that. And then our solutions enable broadband providers to take actions to get the benefits that we just talked about. So that's what we do. But because of that, we're able to take that data holistically, put it together, and then create insight. And that insight is driven across all the data throughout all the customers that we serve. So by looking at this data, we get broad trends and reports, and we're able to take a forecasted view based on that. And so we take those insights and generate what we call the OVBI, or the OpenVault Broadband Industry Report. So that's what the report is. That's how we get to it. And we'd like to now turn it over to Mark Trudeau, who's going to talk about some of the key insights.
Great, thanks, Larry. So just to start off with some of the high-level key findings, this is not a surprise to anybody that has been on these webinars before. Data growth continues at very high rates. Just when we think things are going to slow down, that just doesn't happen. We continue to see heavy growth. As you can see here, average usage growing to 344 gigabytes, up 27% year over year from last year. So we'll talk about that a little bit, as well as, we've always focused on power users. And again, those of you that know us know our definition of power users has changed over time. We used to look at 250 gigabytes as a power user. Now we're looking at subscribers at over a terabyte and over 2 terabytes. Those happen to be the categories that are growing the fastest, and we'll get into that in a little bit more detail as well. A third observation is that we've really started looking at is how has provision speed changed over time? And is there a correlation between faster speeds and higher usage? And it's always amazing to us that many operators think that a subscriber who moves up in speed, that their usage behavior does not change. That is, in fact, not the case. It is very clear that as speed increases, usage increases. And we'll talk about that as well. Another case study that Larry mentioned up front is we will take a look at an operator of ours that deployed a usage-based billing platform and launched that in January of 2019. So we have a nice, clean, full year of experience and results to analyze, and we'll share the results of and the success of that program for this particular operator. And then lastly, we will make some predictions here for 2020. We do have, we're celebrating our 10th anniversary in business, OpenVault. And as a result of having all of that data history, we're able to develop some key trends and forecasts that we will share with you here in this webinar. Okay, so with that said, operators really need to focus on preparing for an increase in usage resulting from their network upgrades. And as subscribers more and more cut the cord and move to broadband only, we've seen in our data shows that usage just increases exponentially to the point where cord cutters are using twice as much as the average consumer. So it's very, very important that operators are prepared for what's coming. To dive into the average usage per household for a bit, as I mentioned, the average weighted average went from 270 gigabytes in fourth quarter of 18 to 344 at the end of 2019. Now, what you also notice is we show on this chart what we observed in 3Q actually this is of 19, third quarter 19, I should say. So we went from 270 gigabytes at the end of 18 to only 275 at the end of the third quarter of 2019. So not huge growth. Most of that growth occurred at holiday time. So from November to December, we saw huge growth up to that 344 gigabyte level. So as you look at, that's tremendous growth that combines actually both flat rate billing programs as well as usage-based billing, and that represents 27% increase year over year. Now, if we look more closely at a breakdown of those operators that have flat rate billing, in other words, all you can eat billing in place versus usage-based billing, and by the way, our customers are split about 50-50. 50% do, in fact, have usage-based billing in place with usage quotas and overage fees, et cetera. What we've consistently seen over time is that those operators that have all-you-can-eat flat-rate billing experience higher usage per household, 353 gigabytes, versus operators that have usage-based billing in place, their average household is using 337 gigabytes, so about a 5% difference in usage. So it's pretty clear that usage-based billing could help to curtail usage on your network. Now, that's actually focused on average usage. When we look at median usage, you can also see that there is a difference where flat rate billing operators experience a higher median usage as well than the usage-based billing operators. Now, I mentioned up front, 250 gigabytes used to be the power user. Now what we're seeing and what you're going to see in our predictions is that by the end of this year, 50% of all subscribers will be using over 250 gigabytes. When we got into this business 10 years ago, that was 0.5% of all subscribers exceeded 250 gigabytes. And now we're talking about 50%. So massive growth at that end of the spectrum. Now, we also look, as I mentioned, at 1 and 2 terabytes and those subscribers exceeding those levels. So what this chart shows us is, again, we take a look at the weighted average, which you see in the middle. So 43.5% of all subscribers are using over 250 gigabytes. 7.25% of all subscribers are now using over a terabyte, and 0.76% of subscribers are using over 2 terabytes. Now, when you look at usage-based billing versus flat rate billing, especially at the high end, at the 1 terabyte and 2 terabyte levels, this is where you really see a delta between usage-based billing and flat rate billing customers using over a terabyte and 2 terabytes. In fact, you can see that with flat rate billing in place with all-you-can-eat plans, the percentage of subscribers using over 2 terabytes is nearly 50% higher than for those operators that have usage-based billing in place. Now, obviously, usage quotas have an impact on that. Most of our operators that have deployed usage-based billing will start their usage caps at a few hundred gigabytes, but very quickly, the majority of their customers are at a terabyte quota, 2 terabyte quotas. So it's not a surprise that those levels, we're seeing big deltas between the flat rate and usage-based billing operators. So just more proof positive that your billing and product planning can have a massive impact on the usage on your network. Okay, now again, at the top end, what's the growth rate of subscribers using over those levels? We're seeing tremendous growth at those top levels. More and more as gig services are being deployed, et cetera, the highest growth in usage and the fastest rate is occurring at those high ends. So this is something operators really need to be focused on. And again, to reiterate the point, there's 12% higher users as far as the percent of users over a terabyte on flat rate versus usage-based billing. Okay, now we focus on provision speeds. And again, we've started to look at across our customer base. We're talking about millions of subscribers, taking a look at what they're provisioned for, what plans they're on, et cetera, and how that has changed over time. And now you're seeing, if you look at the black box, you're seeing nearly 3% of all subscribers now are provisioned for gig service. So obviously this is having a big impact on usage per subscriber. And what we've also started to look at now, and again, you see most of those customers are actually between 50 and 200 megabits per second. So we're moving up in terms of the speed being offered and being actually selected by the subscriber base. Now, interestingly enough, when you have usage-based billing in place, what we're seeing is there's a 94% higher take rate on gig service than flat rate billing. Now, what's the reason for that? Many of our operators that are offering 1 gig service, in correlation with that, are offering 1 gig with unlimited usage. So no quotas are typically assigned to the 1 gig service. So as a result, you're seeing a lot of subscribers upgrade from the slower speeds up to a gig service to get unlimited usage. So that's why it might seem ironic, but a very high percentage of the usage-based billing subscribers are opting in for that gig service load. Now to focus in on a case study, as I mentioned up front, we've deployed usage-based billing for an operator of about 25,000 subscribers. And they went from a flat rate billing scheme to a usage-based billing scheme. They started that in January. They took about 60 days to communicate to their subscribers that it was coming, 60 to 90 days. And ultimately, the results have been tremendous. Over the past 12 months, we've seen their ARPU increase by $7.75 per month, which represents approximately a 14% increase in ARPU. As you can see, the majority of the ARPU increase isn't actually coming from overage fees. It's coming from the upgrades resulting from subscribers that were either approaching their quotas or exceeding their quotas, getting hit with overage fees. They've opted in at a rate of 40% of all subscribers contacted that fell into this category, upgraded to higher service plans that came with a higher quota and certainly a higher monthly recurring charge. So the vast majority of the ARPU increase is actually subscribers self-selecting to higher speeds. Now, one common question we get is that, well, what happened to customer satisfaction? Did customer satisfaction wane? Were customers not happy with this program? And what this operator has shared with us is that, sure, initially in the first 30 days or so, there was quite a bit of phone calls into customer care, et cetera, complaining about this program, but that soon died down. And in fact, now we're hearing that the net promoter scores for this operator are actually higher now than they were before this program was launched. So, we talk to a lot of operators. A lot of operators have really questioned whether they want to move to usage-based billing, especially in competitive environments. And what we've seen time and time again is that there's no operators that have ever done this regret it. And in fact, the customers end up being happier. Subscribers are right-sized on the right bandwidth speed, not only resulting in better customer experience, fewer phone calls and fewer truck rolls. So again, another indication that your billing approach and your product approach can have massive benefits throughout the organization. Okay, so obviously we are very much proponents of helping our operators monetize the growth on their network. I mentioned cord cutting. It's obviously not going away. Many analysts are suggesting it's only accelerating, and if you've seen any of the recent data in the industry, you know that cord cutting is in fact accelerating, and we've seen some of our customers, the data showing that the average cord cutter is actually now consuming over 600 gigabytes of data versus what you've seen here in this report as the average household over our customer base uses 344. So nearly double the usage from cord cutters. So as that trend continues, it's imperative that operators really take monetization seriously, because these customers are going to end up putting a lot of strain on the network, and you're going to need to keep up with that capacity demand. Okay, so moving to some predictions for 2020. What gives us the right to make predictions? Well, again, we have a history of data, and in fact, one of the areas that we've really started to look at, again, is the correlation between speed increases and usage increases. So what you're looking at here, the top line represents usage, and we've already shared that a year ago, average usage per household was 270 gigabytes. That's now moved to 344, or a 27% increase in usage. The bottom represents the weighted speed across our customer base, both a year ago and in December of 19. And you see speed increase from 103 megabits per second on average up to 128, or a 24% increase in speed. So again, a very strong correlation between speed increases and bandwidth consumption levels. And this is really proof positive that, and one of the big questions we get as a provider is, well, we're going to upgrade our network, we're going to launch new speeds, faster speeds, but we don't think our usage behavior of our customers is going to change. Okay, for lots and lots of reasons, that is absolutely an incorrect assumption. You don't know how much pent-up demand there is within the pipe and inside their home. If they cut the cord, all of a sudden, every piece of content they're consuming will be over streaming video across multiple simultaneous devices. As bandwidth speeds increase, so does the speed that services like Netflix require with their adaptive bitrate functionality. As speed improves, Netflix will provide a higher quality video, which chews up more data. So usage behavior absolutely changes, consumption levels change. So it's imperative that when you're thinking about upgrading your network and moving to faster speeds, you should expect that there's going to be a lot more usage coming through as well. So we predict some very specific numbers here and stats for 2020. We expect that by the end of 2020, there will be at least 1.4% of all subscribers exceeding 2 terabytes of usage. That would be an 80% increase over the end of year 2019, but this is something that we feel confident in making this prediction just based on the trend that we're seeing across our customer base. In terms of the 1 terabyte level, we're seeing, and we expect that there will be about 12% of all subscribers by the end of the year exceeding a terabyte, and that would be a 60% increase from the end of 2019. As mentioned earlier in the webinar, by this time next year, over half of all subscribers will be using over 250 gigabytes. So it makes a lot of sense that we change the definition of what a power user is. So that's years ago, that number was scary to operators, but they really need to obviously expect heavy growth on at the top level across the board. Lastly, we expect average usage will actually exceed 400, and in fact 425 gigabytes per month per household. So yes, median usage will be a little over 250 gigabytes. Average usage will certainly be dragged up by the fact that you're having such growth at the really high end. So the average household we expect now to be using 425 gigabytes 1 year from now. So in conclusion, obviously usage continues to increase. It's expected to continue. Every time we think, well, the numbers are so big, we can't possibly grow at the same rate. Something occurs like the cord cutting phenomenon, et cetera, that just continues the 20 to 30% growth range year over year. And we expect that to continue. Turning to a usage-based billing approach, we encourage operators to look in that direction. If, for various reasons, operators are not wanting to move in that direction, at the very least, it's important that you look at your subscriber base, understand their usage behavior at a granular level, and identify upgrade candidates, because that is another way to drive revenues without, in fact, deploying usage-based billing. As usage is increasing, network upgrades, are going to be very important. Operators or subscribers are looking for faster and faster speeds. Now you're talking about 4K and now 8K content coming down the pike. These types of that type of video quality requires significant bandwidth. So it's important that operators continue to increase the speeds, but understand the implications of that as well. So with all that said, just want to share really quickly for those that don't know where our focus areas are. We talked about this up front, but it's helping operators to better manage their available network capacity, plan for capacity needs, save time and cost by providing all this data at your fingertips and enabling customer care to have full access to this information as well. Increasing your ARPU. This is the most important line of business for operators these days. And while your margins might be considered high right now, it's only a matter of time that keeping up with this demand and the expense associated with that can shrink your margins. So aligning growing usage with growing revenues is critical. And it's also critical to ensure higher customer satisfaction. The faster the speeds, many of our customers, we see 20 to 30% of their subscribers are in fact on the wrong plan for their level of usage and their bandwidth needs. That's a revenue opportunity that not only drives more revenue, but higher customer satisfaction. We have a number of solutions to help. I won't get into details on all of them, but happy to have follow-up with anybody on this webinar to discuss in more detail and provide you product demos, etc. And I think at this point, we will wrap it up with any questions that came in.
Thank you, Mark. This is Larry again. We did have a few questions come in. First one, this may be from my mother, I'm not sure. She's very interested in this. No, question one. It says, why are flat rate plan subscribers more likely to use more data?
Well, flat rate really means all you can eat, right? And traditionally, that's how operators have gone to market with their broadband plans. It's they've marketed various speeds at various prices, but without any usage quota or limits in place outside of, in some cases, acceptable use policies that might be published but not enforced. So as a result, subscribers have really been conditioned that they can just use as much as they want without any implications. And this is why the usage-based billing approach, we think, is a direction that operators should move.
Well, along those lines, we have two more questions, and they're both related to usage-based billing. The first one is, what steps should we take if we're considering moving to UBB, as was referenced in the case study?
Well, the first step is really understand the usage behavior of your subscriber base at a very granular level. So what's the usage for every subscriber based on the plan that they're currently on, so that we can start to model various usage quotas and pricing schemes. Obviously, the most common is to set a usage quota per speed tier and then charge subscribers a fee of $10 for every 50 gigabytes they exceed that limit, and modeling all that out so you can understand what fees to expect, which subscribers you expect to maybe upgrade or proactively reach out to upgrade. And once everything's modeled out, you will see that the revenue implications are substantial, and then you've aligned that growing usage with future revenue growth as well. And you've really done it at a time when many operators are doing it, and wireless in particular. It's all over the news always about wireless usage limits, etc. Customers expect this. And any operator, again, I'll reiterate, that has deployed this ends up with happier customers in the end. After the first 30 days or so, it's a big customer service and customer experience victory. And at the same time, bring significant output increases.
Thank you. Regarding the case study, you mentioned 40% of the subscribers opted for UBB. Do you know what made them choose it? What was the process the provider went through?
Yeah, so this provider did a very good job of educating their subscribers ahead of actually launching usage-based billing. So we tracked the usage, did balance management for them, and ultimately helped trigger notifications to subscribers that would be approaching their usage limits with the new program in place. They did not get charged right away, but they ultimately were notified that they would be charged in the future. And what this resulted in is anybody that called in to ask questions about that, the operator was prepared to suggest an upgrade and what that upgrade meant, which typically meant a faster speed and a higher quota so that they could avoid those usage overage fees. And as you know, the key stat being that nearly half of all subscribers contacted opted in themselves to upgrading their service. So that's what drove a good chunk of the ARPU increase and improved customer satisfaction, frankly.
Thank you. One other question came in, I may not be translating it right. Is there a rule of thumb for how much usage a subscriber will use each month, say a cord cutting kind of subscriber?
Well, there isn't a simple answer for that. It really depends on number and type of devices within the household. It depends on their usage behavior in terms of what streaming services they have, how many simultaneous streams will be occurring. This is why it's really, really important to be able to look not just at usage consumption, but look at the device topology within the home, as well as looking at even the applications being used. You know, is this subscriber subscribed to Netflix, Hulu, etc.? How many streaming services do they have? Are they all being used? These are all solutions that we help our operator customers with, because having that granular look inside the home allows us to help make predictions for the subscriber as to how much usage they're going to need, and therefore how much bandwidth they're going to need based on the usage quota.
Thank you. One last question. For providers who are looking to move from DOCSIS or FTTP to faster speeds and offering faster speeds, what impact can they expect in terms of overall usage?
Well, I guess there's two answers to that. One, I've addressed earlier that the faster the speed, the higher the usage, right? And that's pretty it's pretty clear in all the data across millions of subscribers that that's the case. I do think though that many of the, and I'm not sure this is directly answering the question, but many of the operators we do business with have what we call hybrid networks. They're DOCSIS. They might have started out as DOCSIS, but they're moving very rapidly to fiber. Many of them actually taking a some rapidly, some more deliberate, where they're identifying the real power users on the DOCSIS network and targeting them as the first movers as far as running fiber to the home to get them off of that shared DOCSIS network. So helping operators identify who those subscribers are that might be causing network congestion and therefore hurting the service of all other subscribers on a given node is part of what we really help focus on, is identifying those subscribers, and also are they close to a fiber node where they could run fiber to the home, and helping operators prioritize who those subscribers are can really help extend the life of the existing DOCSIS plant and improve customer satisfaction.
Thank you, Mark. Those are all the questions. For those of you listening or joining a bit after we started, we have recorded this. We'll be posting it for you to view or to share with your peers and colleagues, and hope that they can benefit from this information as well. If you have not downloaded the report, it's available on our website as well as previous quarters as well. We hope you have found this of value, and we're here to answer other questions offline. Just come to our website and fill it out. Thank you again for your attendance today.